You Booked It, episode 103. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Kelly Hamilton. Are you ready for this, Kelly?
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it.
Right on. Kelly has danced in major cities all across the U.S., eventually ending up in Las Vegas, where she performed in Jubilee for nearly 7 years. After Jubilee, she began laser and show production. In 2016, one of her laser shows went viral with millions of views, and in 2017, she won 2 first-place ILDA Laser Design Awards for programming and laser choreography. She has appeared on several TV shows, including Discovery TV's Outrageous Acts of Science, MTV's Amazingness, and the CW's The Big Stage. Kelly is also the VP and Associate Creative Director of Q Productions Las Vegas, which produces theatrical shows and special events, most notably their Christmas show, Holiday Dreams, a spectacular holiday cirque. She may have a fancy title, but Kelly wears many hats, including production coordinator, talent manager, costumer, as well as handling shipping, travel, and of course, lasers. Kelly, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Awesome. That was a great introduction, Dane.
Thank
Seems like
you.
I've done a lot. I'm actually, just to fill in the blanks a little bit, I'm originally from Miami, Florida. My background is in dance. I did go to New World School of the Arts High School for dance. I have my Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance, summa cum laude, from Florida State University. I spent several semesters at the Martha Graham School on scholarship. While I was in New York, I also danced with the Pearl Lang Dance Theater, and I was an understudy for the Graham Second Company, the ensemble. When I was living there, for a while, the Graham Company just shut down. There was actually a moment where it didn't exist, and so I left New York because that was what I had been working for most of my young adult professional life there. But it led me to a bunch of other dance companies. I danced in Miami, Indianapolis, New York, all across the US. And then, of course, ended up at Jubilee, where I was there for almost 7 years, ended up being line captain for several years, and then figured out my body is not able to handle 12 shows a week.
Fair?
So I was like, yeah, what else can I do? Of course, lasers, right?
Right, the logical
Yeah,
choice.
it's the natural, progression to it. But yeah, I worked really hard. I was working about 3 jobs to be able to purchase my first laser equipment, because laser gear is extremely expensive. And it grew from there. I had an idea and it developed. So to explain what I do, I am a laser manipulation artist, and I'm also a laser programmer. So I do a special performance with lasers that combines elements of dance and magic and lasers, of course. So I use a whole bunch of skills to make these pieces, almost like I consider them dances or performances. You have to see a video to really understand.
Yeah,
So
100%.
it's just really hard to explain it. It's very visual. So with that, yeah, I've won laser design awards. I've been on TV and done a lot of things. It's really been a wonderful, wonderful journey. And then the part of me that also works with Q Productions Las Vegas, and very proud of all of our shows, especially our holiday show. And this year we've obviously been through COVID and the shutdown, and we haven't been able to do our normal theatrical shows and corporate events, but we've been able to make a really interesting pivot, and I've been excited to be on the learning curve of that. I can't tell you exactly what it is yet, but by the end of the year, we can.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. Let's move on to this next section here. And Kelly, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
My favorite quote is very simple and it's very prophetic. Are you ready?
Yes.
I have to give it an intro. It is just do it. From the Nike
Prophetic,
ad.
yes. Love it.
Yeah. It can't get more simple than that. I mean, for everything, whatever you're not good at, you just have to do it in order to get better. You just have to get up every day and say, what can I do to make this better? Just do it. It's not going to get better on its own or just thinking about it. And that applies to your talent, to learning programming, anything.
Yeah, and you mentioned programming right there. Can you delve into a pretty solid example of the just do it mentality with your career?
Just with my career, yeah, I can. I have had a lot of setbacks, which I know we'll get to later in this, but I literally had to learn to just do it myself with the lasers and the technology. I had to teach myself. There is no laser university.
Right.
There is no such thing. I had to get up, do it, figure it out, and it's a lot more than just programming that's involved. There's a whole bunch of other things that there's just no precedent for it. So I would just sit there with whatever I was working with, whether it was on the computer or with costume pieces or props that I need, and just sit there and figuring out, and little by little, trial and error, day by day, it got better and better and into a more concise and beautiful package.
Oh, I can imagine. And I can imagine you went through so many different iterations of the technology itself.
Yeah, I have only been doing this about 7 years, and the technology is rapidly changing for the better. Lasers, you used to have a room and water tanks to cool the units.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then within this last 10 years, I can fit a 10-watt laser in a small rolling road case, which is unheard of
Right.
even just a few years ago. Stuff like that. And then, of course, the controls and everything else. And there's just always something to learn. And I didn't want to just stick with just the performance stuff, too. So there's show control, live control, all the other things, and a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming out this year that I'm interested in delving into.
Yeah, very cool. And let's move on to this section. And Kelly, of course, you're an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree. This industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, sure, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
One of the key obstacles came pretty late in my career, and it was basically my body failing me. I was in pain all the time. My back hurt, my hamstrings were constantly pulled. I had to have hip surgery. It was right after I left the show. I did a lot of self-care and maintenance and chiropractic and massage and acupuncture. But I guess there just comes a time where you have to listen to your body. And my mind was telling me, it's if you don't stop now, you might be doing damage that's gonna really affect the rest of your life pretty
Yeah.
bad. I did. And then I turned into laser girl. So it worked out because now I feel like I just get to go do all these great corporate events. I get to travel. I get to create new works all the time. Whereas I feel like being a performer, you spend so much time just maintaining your body as a dancer and doing what you're supposed to do in a show like Jubilee, showing up every night, 6 nights a week, 6 hours a day. There's very little time to really be creative and get outside of the box. So immediately after that, I ran into a lot of roadblocks and stuff with the lasers. There's a lot of shady people in the laser industry. There's also wonderful people, but if you don't really know the technology, you can run into problems and people that say they're going to help. And actually, I've had one person destroy my gear, cost me tens of thousands of dollars.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
What?
we actually it was some of my stuff was being held hostage in their garage because they were quote unquote working on it. So yeah, but the good thing about that is, and Fernando really pushed me to do this too, is to learn everything myself and not rely on other people. Of course, it takes time. It's not like if you just, hire a plumber to come and fix something, they know how to fix it right away. But if you have to do it yourself, you'd have to learn a little bit and practice.
Yeah.
But that's people just letting me down and costing me money made me learn how to do everything myself. It's like, all right, not going to leave this in anyone else's hands because nobody knows what I need and what I want anyways, because it's unprecedented what I do. It's a little different from other similar type things. So yeah, that actually all these quote unquote roadblocks actually led me to a better place. I didn't see it at the time, but it really pushed me to a new height.
Yeah. And I think that's so true for a lot of challenges that come up because when we're in the thick of it, it's not pretty. It's not fun.
No,
We don't really want to be there because
nope.
it's hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. You know in your head that it's there. You can see it, but it's so far off that you have to just keep going. And it's all those little things that you're learning every single day, all the little tiny things that eventually add up and culminate into that light at the end of the tunnel. But there's no one big thing that you do or learn that opens the door magically, right?
No, it's not. It's just taking time, spending time with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Well, I actually have about 3 moments like that in my career because I've done so many different things.
Mm,
So, because I'm a little bit more, advanced in age. The first moment like that was when I got the scholarships at the Graham School, and I was living in New York, and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. And then as I spoke about earlier, that everything closed down, and I had to get out of there, and I redirected what I did, which was fine. But at 20, 21, 22, that was a big, scary thing.
yeah.
But we navigated, but I navigated through that. And then my next wow, I made it moment was actually getting into Jubilee because I had been a modern dancer and I said, I want to be a showgirl before I retire. And I got into the show and it was just wonderful and it was great. And then, of course, my next moment when I was leaving Jubilee and I was heavily into the laser work is when I started to get the viral video and the invitations to be on some TV shows. That was that was awesome to me.
Yeah, very cool. Your life is almost chunked up into three categories, and they're very different, but all within the same industry.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool because that's a big mission of what I'm trying to showcase with this podcast and speaking to great people like you, because so many of us come into this career and whether our concentration is dancing or singing or acting or whatever it is, for you, it's dancing. And so often we just place ourselves in that pigeonhole, I'm a dancer, but then we don't think about or don't even really, what's the word, entertain the idea that there are other possibilities out there for us. And those other possibilities become almost necessities as we get older, as our bodies change or break down, and we need to look for different things and where to put our concentrations next. And I think it's so great that you have made this progression so seamlessly. I mean, when you look at it from the 10,000 foot view, and I'm sure when you were
Mm.
amidst the whole thing, it felt crazy and uncertain. But it's wonderful. And I think it's great for anyone listening who's coming up in their career, is in the beginning of their career, in the middle of your career, looking at such a great progression of how a career can go. And that if your body breaks down, if maybe performing on stage just isn't doing it for you anymore, that's totally cool. There are so many parts of this industry that you can place yourself in and still be artistically fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you always hear, oh, you should have a safety net. You should have a second option
Yeah.
from being a performer. And I disagree. I think that you need to learn how to take the skills you know and what you're good at and evolve with them.
Hmm.
But I also think it's perfectly fine if you want to be in a ballet company or a show for 18 years, do it. And I think especially when you're younger, it's okay to be a little corny here, laser focused, because
Yeah,
it,
100%.
dance is a very demanding skill, and you have to develop the flexibility and the strength, and you have to really focus on it. And you don't get a long career as a dancer. You're not going to, you could be, but being a full-time performer, it's rare that people do it past their 40s. And I think that you do maybe need to be laser focused on that. But like you said, until it's not working for you, until you where you feel stuck or you feel miserable or you feel maybe not even miserable but just unfulfilled,
Yeah.
get out of the show, get out of the dance company you're in, take a break, come back to it, see if it's where you still want to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that there's so much out there to transition your energies into. It doesn't mean you're done with the arts or done with this industry at all.
No, it doesn't. And don't be afraid to take a chance and completely do a big change if you're unhappy where you are. It's worked out for me. Like, it's been a little scary at moments, but I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I left the show. My body was breaking down, obviously, but I realized how unhappy I was there. And that's not, you can't blame one thing for that. There's a lot of things, but it was me personally, it was time for me to go. It was time for me to leave.
Absolutely. I think that is incredible advice. And next up, I want to piggyback on that question and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
My favorite booked it moment was when I got to do Discovery TV's Outrageous Acts of Science.
Cool.
That was really cool because it was blending performance and science. And it's, wow, I'm an outrageous act of science. Like, that's, I think, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is it. I didn't really, I mean, my audition was, of course, they found me on social media and approached me. So I didn't have to go to an audition per se, but they had definitely taken a look at all the work I had done and put up on YouTube and Insta and all the Facebook. So they saw that I had a good body of work and I would be an interesting candidate to be on their show.
Yeah, I'd say so. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And what was the filming process like? Did they fly you somewhere? Did they come to you? How did it work?
They actually came to me. They are based in the UK, and they made a route through the US to work with any of their people. And they made, of course, a stop in Las Vegas. I think it was the only one here in Las Vegas. And they came to my warehouse. I had that set up as kind of a black box stage and had all my lasers set up. And we did the interview there with, lasers in the background. And it's tricky to film lasers. So that took a little bit of work just because it's the deal with the persistence of vision and the shutters on the cameras and colors and everything. And then the brightness of light. It's a process. It can be done. But yeah, so they interviewed me at my warehouse and then they taped me doing a couple of performances.
Yeah, very cool. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And talked about it a little bit, but it's a weird time. We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think we obviously have to make a big shift in the entertainment industry. And I think that a lot of people are doing a really great job at that. It's got to be made for social media, made for computer, made for TV, and a drive through experience, as opposed to sitting in a theater for any length of time with 1,000, 1,500 people with you. So that has its own challenges, especially if you're a performer that really engages the audience. But for us, for Q Productions and Lady Light, I'm always inserting myself in there, like, where can we put lasers?
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
We are working on some installations that are their drive-through installations, and they're really exciting and they're fun. It's challenged me to change out of like a laser performance mindset to a place where you're actually like driving through experiencing lasers and the challenges that come with that and keeping it running for a long period of time. So I'm really excited for these things to materialize. You can practice as much as you want, and I can set up all my things and my scenarios in my warehouse, but really getting it set in the setting in real life and seeing people's reactions to it, which I hope is excellent, is going to be the icing on the cake. And I can't wait for that.
For sure. You got to take the leap at some point, right?
I mean, it was like shoved. I was shoved.
Exactly. You're like, there's a cliff. Figure it out. Fly.
Here you go. Figure it out.
Oh,
So, but yeah, it's been a great learning curve. And again, no university on this. We just figured it out and it's been fun.
very cool. I am excited to see what that is when it goes live, and you'll have to keep me posted because I want to check it out.
I will, for sure.
Beautiful. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
There was nothing holding me back. Actually, I am such a strong-willed and stubborn person. The only thing I would get pushback from my family, especially my grandmother, and they said, "You're so smart. Don't waste all your brains on being a performer or being a dancer." And the way I did that, I went through college on my own scholarships and I did everything by myself. So I wasn't relying on anybody to pay for my education or my career moves. So I was able to do it my way.
Yeah, that's so good. And I can imagine that it takes quite a bit of brain power to put together one of your laser shows.
Well, but not even that. Come on, dancers are smart people.
Yeah.
It is not an easy thing. You have to be able to think on your feet, literally. So yeah, I should have said that before. Yeah, like dancing doesn't take brains. It's just a different side of your brain, especially, surviving in the industry. It takes a lot of intelligence. So yeah.
Yep, 100% agree with that. And the second question, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I can't put a nail on that. And I know I'm just taking your questions and throwing them back at you. I really wish I had gotten some good advice, but I feel like I didn't. And maybe I was just being my stubborn self. But I really wish some people had given me a little more advice. Just be happier about this and to live in the moment. But I feel like I never really got any of that. I got a lot of, especially when I was in the classic dance realm, it was a lot of negative feedback. It wasn't really
Hmm.
advice.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I think that happens a lot with performers and things like this. But I'm hoping that through this podcast as well, that people like yourself can, by listening to what you've experienced your whole career, can be super insightful for people coming up in their careers to avoid some of those speed bumps that happen along the way, inevitably.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I guess the thing is the speed bumps they're not necessarily the end point. You have to realize they're just there to make you better. Gee, I wish I had gotten that advice. I'm sure someone probably told me that, or I listened to a lecture, but I don't think it was ever directly told to me, you know?
Right. Right.
So, so yeah, I mean, I was always out seeking inspiration and tidbits of knowledge, but I don't know that it was ever directly told to me.
And the third question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
What's working for me is just trying to learn something new every day and be flexible and be present in the moment.
Great. And the fourth question, what is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a YouTube video, a movie, maybe a podcast, a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now.
Instagram and Facebook presence does help me, but I have to say that the best resource for me has been building up my relationships with agents and my associates throughout the year. And there's really nothing that can replace that. I had a viral video with millions of views, right? And I got tons of inquiries from this, from all over the place and random. And I can tell you how many things I actually booked out of that was maybe 3 solid
Right.
leads, solid gigs. Whereas if you have an agent that knows your skills and your talents and how you work and how you can fit in and to an event or a show, that is invaluable because they're paying the bills. And
Right. They're selling you to whoever and whatever it might be.
exactly. Yeah. And it just takes time. There was like, I got agents. And so for a year or 2 years, sometimes I wouldn't work for them at all. And then once the ball gets rolling with them, they're like, oh, I see how this is. And being self-contained as much as possible is really key as well. But that is the best resource. And it takes time and digging and emailing and reminding and showcasing and whatever you can do.
Yeah, that is bonkers good advice for everyone listening out there. And
Good.
the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I wouldn't do anything differently. I would like, and I hit on it before, I'd like to have been happier where I was at the moment. Because I was always just, I should do this and I need to push harder at this and maybe it's this and I'm not doing good enough. So I think that if I had just been a little more present and content and happy with what I was doing while keeping an eye on the bigger picture and
Hmm.
what's next, of course, that's what I would change. It's more my mindset than what I actually did.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you talked about that because I can relate to that feeling. And I'm sure if the two of us do, we're not alone. And it is so easy to get caught up in the hype of things, or if you're not progressing as fast as you think you should, or not doing the right thing, but to really try your hardest to relish in the moments and enjoy what you're doing because it's great. It's fun and it's fulfilling artistically, but then also, like you said, keep an eye on the big picture. Don't lose sight of that because you have to have a direction that you're trying to go, but try not to put all your focus there.
Especially performers, everything is you have a performance, it's a fleeting moment.
Mm.
And especially most of my career, my early career, we didn't video everything. We didn't post
Right.
videos. We weren't allowed to. If you brought a camera or a cell phone, which nobody had, into a dance class and videoed it or filmed it, you would get kicked out. And so all I have left are some VHS tapes that maybe haven't rotted and some pictures. But even then, photography was difficult for dance and stuff like that. Especially being from that era, it's like more important to have been like, just enjoy those moments and take them in and feel good.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice.
Hmm.
And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Dane, you're going to hate me because I'm going to answer this with not answering it.
That's totally fine.
Third question okay, so there is no golden nugget advice. There is none. What you need to do for yourself is different from anyone else. I mean, even if you want to be a prima ballerina, you would think that would be a very clear cut path, right? I need to do class every day. But one prima ballerina is ultra flexible and has to work on strength her whole life. The other prima ballerina is strong but needs to work on her flexibility, right? So there's no golden nugget advice, and you have to find your own way, and don't let anyone tell you you didn't make it or you're not good enough, because you are doing what you want to do and what you need to do at that time.
And to wrap up this interview, Kelly, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so you can find me on social media. Instagram is at Lady Light Laser Girl. Laser is spelled with an S, not a Z. It's an acronym, little learning lesson there. Laser with this S. So at Lady Light Laser Girl. My website is ladylightlaser.com. Facebook is also Lady Light Laser Girl. And Q Productions Las Vegas. You can find our website at Q. So that's the letter Q, Productions Las Vegas spelled out.com.
Beautiful. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Kelly just said in the description of this episode so you can easily connect with her. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you, Dane. It's been wonderful, and I'm really honored.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.